Newsround is coming at you. Dramatic scenes at Aintree over the weekend. So protesters delayed the Grand National. They prompted further debate, as you've just been hearing on the news headlines, about horse racing and animal welfare. Lydia Hislop is a brilliant racing broadcaster, journalist. Very happy to say she's going to join us 7:30 to discuss all. Monday Night Rugby then. Great weekend for the Irish provinces in the URC. Bad weekend for Ireland in the Six Nations. Jerry Thornley and Fiona Hayes on the way after 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, Arsenal wobbling at just the wrong time. Liverpool Leeds is on Monday Night Football this evening. Pat Nevin with us on the football show after 9. 53106, the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. We have Richie McCormack with us. Good evening. Hello.
Gents, how are you?
Very well. Michael McCarthy here in studio. Hello, Michael.
Hi, lads. How are things?
Very well. Cracking weekend of sport, all told, I would say.
Started off beautifully for certain fans of a certain football club around 12:30 on Saturday. But we won't talk about that now. I don't even want to talk about it. I'll let the table do its speaking for itself.
Oh, indeed. Jason, the Irish villain, texted in. Could you get
straight away? Jesus.
Could you get Mick's 15 seconds on Aston Villa near the start of the Newsround tonight, please? I have to go collect the kids. I'd hate to miss my team's ... coverage.
Best Villa performance that I can remember. I'm not necessarily saying it was the best of my lifetime, but obviously fresh in my mind. They were absolutely outstanding. Newcastle weren't great, but nobody has done that to them this season at all.
They were
any team.
Bloody good, Aston Villa.
Yeah.
I hadn't appreciated just what quality football they play all of a sudden.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant football. Like some one-touch stuff between like the three midfielders setting up, like, and Watkins just absolutely unplayable. That's the best I've ever seen Ollie Watkins play, but it's also not completely out of nowhere. Like, he has had this in his locker all along. He's playing much better, much smarter game at the moment. He's not getting as involved in everything as he has been doing, but like, God, it's playing dividends. Like, he is absolutely brilliant.
I heard Gary Neville make the observation, and you could really see it on the pitch, that Emery, and interestingly it's a side issue, but he was arguing continental coaches generally, but Emery is excellent at just rehearsing little movements, little patterns again and again and again, and suddenly on a pitch they unfold and they're orchestrated, and you have the likes of McGinn and all these players who you would describe as kind of not flair players, but obviously you think about the best players you played with in school. And
how good are any Premier League players?
They weren't even within a billion miles of Premier League, so how good these guys must be. And suddenly you see them able to express themselves within this coordinated manner, and then you see Frank Lampard and you just think, there's something in this coaching business.
Yeah, it's kind of, and even the take the Lampard thing with a more like the Gerrard one, I suppose, is relevant to Villa, but feels more historical now. Like, God only knows if that's going to rear its head again. But I was on the show like the night he got sacked. We didn't know he was going to get sacked the night of the Fulham game, and I remember bemoaning John McGinn as someone who should be the most popular player. He's such a fans player, and he was becoming disliked. He was getting mocked, like jeered and mocked when he was getting taken off after 65 minutes in the game when he shouldn't have been starting. He was so out of form, his confidence was gone, and Gerrard just sticking with him but not doing anything with him, and now look at him. Honestly, he has been on a consistent level the last 10-15 games. He's been one of the best midfielders in the league.
Is that 6 wins in a row?
Yeah, first time since the 90s.
Ooh, up to 6th, Aston Villa. That is your Aston Villa coverage for the next 2 months.
Appreciate it.
And counting. Richie,
another sport on this weekend.
Monaghan and Tyrone. Richie saved Gaelic football over the weekend as well. Look what a beautiful beast it can be.
Ulster football once again saving the entirety of the All Ireland Championship. It was fantastic because, like, for whatever we always talk about the competitive nature of the Ulster Championship, but there had been this slow creep towards kind of attritional football down through the years, and that was just, the doors are blown wide off that yesterday. Yesterday was just a fantastic game. 2 teams well able to attack, 2 teams more than willing to attack, taking their chances when they fell to them, and ultimately coming down to the 76th minute and that winning goal. Like, it was just a remarkable outing. But there is a tinge of sadness is probably too strong, but like, you kind of wonder, like, and the same again the other week with Roscommon and Mayo. It's like, what are these games for? I know there's like provincial championships ultimately on the line, but yesterday both teams qualified for the group stages of the championship. Roscommon and Mayo the week previous both qualified for the group stages of the championship. So there is a bit of a case of phony war about these kind of games, unfortunately. I don't think it should take away from the product that was served up, because it was brilliant.
It was class. Even before the drama of the kind of like you score, we score, then we score a goal madness at the of injury time, which is like, you know, it's so the opposite of what we've seen of like, you know, holding on to what you have, 3-minute possessions, all of that stuff that we were actually only talking about last week, moaning it. None of that was there. But even before that, it was a spectacular game. It was really open. It was brilliant. The first Monaghan goal, like, you know, you've got Rory Beggan and Niall Morgan playing basically as, you know, I saw Conor McManus describing Beggan as the quarterback jokingly on TV after the game, but that is what they're doing. And Beggan did this thing where he burst towards the 45 and it looked like he was going to take a score, and Tyrone thought he was going to take a score, and instead he just laid this beautiful ball in, full forward, taps it out, goal. And it was brilliant. It was just great football. But this was all the way through. I thought it was just a really open, good game. And yeah, for the go for the goal instead of fisting over, it's everything that we haven't seen in football for the last 4 or 5 years.
It's still the wrong decision.
They're 1 point down. I don't know, like, well, maybe as Richie says, maybe it's not do or die, and you can try those things in the 76th minute. Darren McCurry had just hit a beautiful or score to win the game, to put Tyrone ahead. However many seconds before that will be forgotten by history now as well. You know, there was loads in it. It was brilliant.
I was incredibly relieved on his behalf that he did score the goal, because
the young guy
on his debut. Yeah, good on him. So I'm curious for your thoughts on the Grand National situation as well. We'll be talking about this at 7:30. Lydia Hislop will join us. 14-minute delay to world's most famous race. Police arrest 118 protesters from the animal welfare group Animal Rising, 2 of whom managed to, I think one of them glued himself and another may have chained himself, but certainly glue was in there. I don't know how you detach him from the fence, but he was glued to it one way or another. That's not the key issue here, but it did cross my mind.
It does seem to me, yeah.
And just that increasing nervousness on the part of horse racing, I would think particularly in the UK, where the anti-horse racing lobby is louder certainly than it is here, and Animal Rising have promised more protests of this nature across the summer and beyond. So Lydia Hislop will join us. Racing has the misfortune on a few fronts, certainly one of them being that their most watched race, the Grand National, is also by a distance its most dangerous race. 36 horses have died in the Grand National since 2010, and it is a much safer race now than it's ever been. Much safer. 4 and 3 years have died. And to double up on their misfortune from their point of view, I suppose, as this 15 minutes of protest happened, more and more people, I suspect, turned on their television to watch the drama, and then Hill 16, the horse, died at the first fence, and the black curtains went up around it, and broken neck and death. And so it crystallised the rationale, I suppose, behind the protest. So it's in an interesting spot racing. Even in the Cheltenham coverage on ITV, there was a real nervousness. I think it was on Gold Cup Day when a horse went down, and Ed Chamberlain and team couldn't have repeated more often that the horse is okay, everybody's home safely, the horse is okay, because they are acutely aware of the misgivings people have. And Alex Lockwood is part of Animal Rising, and he has written a piece in The Guardian today, and he was quoting surveys which suggest that 80% of people under 40 don't want to attend horse racing because they view it as unethical. So as an exemplar of shifting attitudes, perhaps. Now, the great hypocrisy of all those 80%, I suspect, is that they continue to eat meat and poultry. And,
I also would. You don't want to question empirical evidence, but you know, I'd like to see what the sample is of that, because that doesn't reflect on. Like certainly 80% of people that I know under 40 wouldn't have anywhere close to that number. I would say it's not even in the majority.
I tend to agree. And this, to be fair, the line, maybe it's different if it's just, do you think horse racing should exist? Because this was very much, do you want to attend a horse racing meeting?
But I want to see how the question was framed, and again, just thinking of it almost in a, you know, from doing like sampling and different things in the past, and understanding how that works. So much of it's based on the sample, where the sample's from, how random it is, and from the question that was asked.
It's a very complicated issue, this. do you know where I have I'd be curious for your thoughts, where I do have a certain sympathy for horse racing is that I think the majority, and probably vast majority of those in the industry, really love horses and treat them beautifully, meticulously.
Yeah.
And yet there is obviously this issue. There is this downside to the sport. But in that same piece that Alex Lockwood from Animal Rising wrote, he was making the point that, you know, our relationship with animals is awful, broken, disgusting, despicable, frankly. And in the UK alone, we breed and kill 1.2 billion animals every year. And there was a link in the article to some video footage of how we treat these animals. And guess what, Michael? It's pretty gruesome, the conditions in which they're kept. Basically, every undercover investigation is never great when you see how animals are being treated. And so it's like racing is what we're talking about at 7:30. It's very much front and centre of the debate. Like, I don't know, 50 horses have died this year on the tracks of the UK. That's nothing compared to 1.2 billion animals killed every year for food, and increasingly so needlessly. So I think racing can kind of feel, geez, we're like, when you're talking about animal welfare, it's our sport in the firing line in a massive way for the last 48 hours. Does everybody want to check themselves a little bit as we cut open our beef burger?
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I think you need to just deal with the matter at hand in this case, especially if you're a racing person who's confronted with this on the TV. And I thought that my main takeaway would be that I thought that there was I don't know if they handled it too well. I thought that they were quite dismissive of it and angry about it in a way that suggested that concerns were all invalid.
Oh, as in the ITV crew weren't happy with the protests?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought that kind of made the protest seem invalid. At the same time, I do understand where, you know, as we talked about before, this wasn't too long ago, we talked about, like, I would imagine that the people involved in the training and riding of horses in Aintree on Saturday are all people who would think, even, you know, is like, this is a horse that lives this life as best they can. They're incredibly well looked after and are treated like really, really well and respectfully. And in return, like we all do, they work and they run this race, and there are risks involved, sure, but you know, I would think that they don't see the ethical issues as even existing, never mind something that need to be addressed or met halfway. And you can understand then, if that is your mentality, right or wrong, how difficult it would be to confront, you know, a protest ruining the biggest race of the year. It's funny you mentioned, like, it's funny it is the Grand National and that that happened at the first fence. We did a preview piece on Friday, and like there was honestly a good few comments talking about it's not the Grand National anymore. Change the fences. Yeah. It's just a long race.
Not dangerous
enough.
You
know, it's not, but kind of. Yeah. You know, it's like it's not dangerous enough is the implied meaning to those messages. Yeah. You know, as in, but it's not difficult.
People have said that about F1 as well.
Absolutely. Do you know what it was? It was going through my head, Richie, as I was saying that there was that F1 is the exact same. It's almost like it's not dangerous enough. But look,
one of the differences being the F1 drivers are paid 50 million a year and consent.
Yeah, and know what they're getting themselves into, which the horses obviously have no choice in the matter. Yeah.
But do you not think, where are you in this, Rich? Because I take Mick's point, we have to deal with the issue at hand, and yet I do find myself thinking, oh, this is a very kind of easy pinata to bash in the context of how many animals we all mistreat every year, and here we are like making racing the headline issue. It's not.
Yeah, but it's like at its very basic level, it is a sport that involves competitors that don't give full-on consent. They're just essentially coerced, as well as you might treat them, into participating. And it's the only sport really left wherein central competitors die on any kind of a frequent basis. And that's a difficult thing to try and juggle with the fact that, you know, they are treated like royalty within their yards, and that their owners and that their trainers and that their jockeys all really look after them to a point, because then you see the protests that there have been from trainers in particular about the whip rules in the UK and basically the number of basically there was a limit, an upper limit of how many times you could whip the horse, and even the fact that that's a discussion is noteworthy, and the fact that there are trainers against the lowering of that bar, it kind of speaks volumes of people's relationships to the animals. And there are a lot of bad faith arguments made subsequently as well about the protest having an impact on the race itself and on all this kind of stuff, and on Hill 16's death, which I wouldn't be able to buy. But it is like such a nuanced argument that I don't think it takes. It doesn't fall down on the side of I support the protesters, I don't support the protesters. There's so many different disparate elements to it that it's almost hard to do justice in a radio piece. But you'd be very conflicted as a human being watching what does transpire during racing, really.
Yeah, very. And again, that huge TV audience saw the protest and then saw Hill 16 die at the first and watched the curtain go up for the second circuit. So it was really borne out in the worst possible way for racing. Let's, before the clock gets too far away from us, Lydia Hislop will join us around 7:30. Curious to get her perspective on the whole situation. Newsround is brought to you with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now. Lots of texts coming in to 53106, which I'll get to in just a moment. There is football this evening, Richie, in the Premier League.
Yeah, Liverpool looking to end a run of 4 Premier League games without a win. Tonight, Jurgen Klopp's side are away to relegation threatened to Leeds. The Ellen Road Club start the night 2 points, 2 places above the relegation zone. They make a couple of changes, both seemingly enforced. Luke Ayling and Patrick Bamford miss out following last week's thrashing at the hands of Crystal Palace. Ilan Meslier is in goal for Leeds. Rasmus Christensen, Robin Koch, Pascal Strauch and Junior Firpo are their back four. Mark Rocca and Weston McKennie anchor the midfield. In front of them, the unchanged trio of Jack Harrison, Brendan Aronson and Luis Sinisterra. Rodrigo starts up front, captains the side as well. Patrick Bamford absent from the matchday squad. Liverpool unchanged from their last outing, but Luis Diaz is on the bench for the first time in about 6 months. Alisson starts in goal, back four then Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ibrahima Konate, Virgil van Dijk and Andy Robertson. Fabinho, Jordan Henderson and Curtis Jones are in midfield. Diogo Jota, Mo Salah and Cody Gakpo are their front three, and kick-off is at 8.
Snooker.
Yeah, Mark Allen has resumed 6-3 up on China's Zheng Yifan in their World Snooker Championship first round match. The first to 10 will play Stuart Bingham in the last 16. Just underway as well, the meeting of Joe Perry and Robert Milkins. 3-time Crucible champion Mark Williams won all 6 frames this afternoon to complete a 10-5 win over Jimmy Robertson. Williams will play Luca Bressel in round 2. John Higgins ended the afternoon session with a 6-2 lead over David Grace. They'll be back tomorrow, while Hossein Vafai set up a mouth-watering last 16 tie with Ronnie O'Sullivan by beating Ding Junhui 10-6 this morning. Vafai has been critical in the past of what he's viewed as O'Sullivan's disrespectful remarks about other players. O'Sullivan fired back following his weekend win over Zhongshu Pang, which has only fired up Vafai even more.
Oh, I was talking to myself, God, don't give me that opportunity. If you give me, I'm going to do same he done to me. So he will get that and everyone will be surprised. And I said that to my God. And he makes that. Everything happen for a reason. You can't run away. If you do something bad to the people, if you break someone else's heart, God will give you that opportunity to get your revenge.
It's all happening.
Jesus. This sounds like the most. This is going to be the worst tempered snooker match of all time.
Documentary about this in 20 years. Frank, the Spurs fan who puts in brackets, let me have this. I knew Arsenal would bottle it, he says. That's looking like the wobble. Yeah. Just when I was starting to think.
Spurs, of course, lost at home to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Ignoring that, yeah.
Bournemouth, by the way. What a brilliant job.
Yeah,
being done there.
Absolutely.
Gary O'Neill, yeah.
Just when I was starting to think, this Arsenal thing has the look of being possible.
I know. As soon as we dismissed it so long, and then you're like, oh, maybe. But to be honest, I think after Anfield, I sort of lost faith a little bit. I was just looking at Man City's fixture list. I can't see them dropping any points except for possibly against Arsenal.
And it's like City have straightened themselves out as well.
Yeah.
Which was another issue in Arsenal's favour, that they were just messing around for half the season.
Yeah. The last 10 minutes of the City-Leicester game would you have a couple of questions, but I think they were 3-0 up at the time. Maybe it's hard to turn it back on, but they were amazing in the first half again, and what they did during the week to Bayern Munich, it's hard to see. It's a weird thing to say when they haven't won anything yet, and they're behind in the Premier League race, but it's hard to see them not winning the treble.
I think they'll win the treble. Yeah,
it's predicting it but even saying I just think I'm fairly sure it's going to happen, which is a mad thing to say.
Well, then we'll suddenly be back talking about the 110 charges against Manchester City.
Long forgotten,
financial
fair
play. Long forgotten. Some texts in on various other issues. Lads, there is a debate to be had about the fences in the English Grand National and they have been changed in the past, and there should be scope for further change to bring them closer to the Irish, Scottish and Welsh nationals. But this animal rising crowd are just going to entrench the debate. These are also work animals and they deserve to be treated immaculately, but some people think these horses would be roaming free on the meadows only for horse racing. They wouldn't. They would nearly be as extinct as the dodo.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I don't know if I know enough about it, but like horses have always been working animals in their human relationship, you know, whether that's right or wrong is another thing, but like, you know, this is the evolution of that. It's for sport now and not for ploughing and transport as it used to be, you know.
Jerry says eating meat and supporting animal welfare is not necessarily inconsistent. It's about the quality of life whilst alive and the humaneness of death. Dying from a broken neck is not humane, says Jerry. That's to my point. Jerry, I'm deeply suspicious of how the 1.2 billion in the UK and however many billion here animals that we eat are being treated in the main. I mean, I don't know where I stand in horse racing, but I do know if you offer me the life of thoroughbred horse versus chicken, bred and killed for food, I'd go for thoroughbred horse. It's just my good instinct.
Yeah.
So I think it is inconsistent. I don't think you can be massive animal welfare supporter and like be buying your chicken and, you know, would you bet your life it's had a good time? I just wouldn't. That's my sense. Without casting aspersions on anybody or any retailer, of course. I'm just talking generally across the globe. You looking at me in a funny way?
No, there's loads of questions about the meat industry and there's loads of exposés about it and everything else. I do think that it's better than it was, and you know the pressure that comes on because of it helps in that regard, you know. But we don't know, I think, is the problem, you know.
So there are coaches joining the provinces left, right, and centre, including Connacht.
Yeah, Connacht today confirmed the impending arrival of Scott Fardy as their new defence coach, signing a 2-year contract at the sports ground. The former Leinster and Wallabies forward joins a coaching staff that has come to also include John Muldoon in recent weeks. They'll report to head coach Pete Wilkins, who says Fardy understands what it takes to develop a relentless and winning mindset. Since retiring as a player in 2021, Fardy's held coaching positions in Japan with NEC Green Rockets and subsequently Australian club Warringah.
We'll talk about that with Jerry Thornley and Fiona Hayes, as well as Jacques Nienaber joining Leinster, replacing Stuart Lancaster.
What an appointment.
Oh, wow. Like, big name. I mean, Nienaber is defensive guru, it seems. That was very much his MO at Munster. So with Lancaster's departure, and you felt like his fingertips were all over the attack, Nienaber will come in, you would presume still be ultimately leaning towards defence. So suddenly the role of Andrew Goodman, looking over after attack even currently, but you suspect, like I said, that Lancaster's very much involved in that. Suddenly Andrew Goodman, who did play for Leinster and has been a coach at the Crusaders, his status and profile is going to be on the rise next year.
Yeah, as attack coach, yeah. Well, look, I mean, that's they obviously made this decision knowing that he's there, and, you know, you need to be able to let people thrive and grow in their job as well like that, and he's ready for it, I would imagine, if he's been working under Lancaster for as long as he has now.
Yeah,
he's obviously ready for the step up, and look, you bring in a defensive guru, like, it can only be good news for Leinster, really.
Yeah. Sean O'Brien will be in charge, by the way. Leo Cullen has flown home from South Africa. He's missing his first game in 8 years in charge. Sean O'Brien will take the game this Saturday coming in the URC. Sam Prendergast, man of the match, player of the weekend, 20 years of age, kicked 14 points.
You almost don't want to get too excited about a player like this, but, you know, you're watching him in the under-20s, Six Nations, you're reading about him, you see the way the people in the game talk about him. You know, it's almost like the Evan Ferguson comparison, not to compare them, but
yeah,
the way it's hearing the people in football talk about Evan Ferguson versus journalists or whoever, you know, or fans even.
Yeah. It's
like there's a real kind of sense that this guy is the real deal, and you get that with Prendergast as well, even though we've had unbelievable under-20s teams over the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
I don't remember one person just like kind of being so exciting, you know, and then he goes out and does that at the weekend.
It's nuts. They've never gone straight into like the Leinster team after winning the 20s. They disappear for several years, tends to be the way. There's been a protest at the snooker live on television at the World Championships. So I'm seeing a photograph on Twitter of a snooker table covered in some kind of orange material. Don't know what it is. Is it like a paste or a powder? It looks like a powder that's all over the table. And the guy who did it is wearing a T-shirt saying, "Just stop oil."
So sorry, I know when they like they're destroying like Van Goghs and like things like that. Like I think there was all these kind of like famous paintings and all have been destroyed, but like don't touch the Crucible.
Don't touch the base.
It's gone too far.
I've just seen the video. The first thing that jumps out about the video is your man jumps on the table, and the first thing you can hear from the crowd is somebody shouting UPRIC and whatever. Yeah.
Oh, I was just thinking
loudly.
It's a quick way to alienate the public.
No.
I mean, you can ruin a Van Gogh.
I know.
But if you're going to mess with our Monday evening snooker,
it's the Crucible, Joe. Some things are just beyond,
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Come on. Jesus Christ.
Turn on the heat an extra degree or two and crank up the oil in retaliation.
I won't mind. It was the Joe Perry and Robert Milkins match. Everybody's going to be looking at the Mark Allen one, I'd imagine. Surely, he's 6-3 up. That's only started. Anyway.
There we go. Do you want to give us one last story? Because I know Lydia's waiting patiently.
Yeah, bad news. Ireland are facing the follow-on in their first ever test with Sri Lanka in Gal. The tourists ended day 2 on 117 for 7 in their first innings after Sri Lanka declared on 591 for 6. Ireland still need 274 runs to make their hosts bat again tomorrow.
Very good. Richie, thank you.
Nice and lads.
Mick McCarthy, thanks very much.
Cheers.